Well, good morning, Wareham. It is Wednesday and it is September 25. We have a fantastic show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. This morning, learn about recycling from your local recycling center. Also, we will be visiting the Echo Elizabeth and Company. That's a store right where the old company store used to be. And in addition to that, maybe we'll be looking at the Baker School of Dance. But first, I would like to take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show. So stay tuned because the weather and the news headlines are next. Well, sunny today, high at 74. Clear skies tonight with low at 57. Tomorrow, a few afternoon clouds, mainly sunny, high at 77 degrees. Rain showers earlier with clearing. Later at night, we're looking at 55 for a low. And now to the news. There were plenty of news stories coming up at the news headlines. All right, a freaky accident. That's our first story of the day. One person died in a car accident in the parking lot of Charlie's Place on Cranberry Highway on Friday afternoon at about 4:27 p.m. on September 20th. Wareham Police, Emergency Medical Services, and the Onset Fire Department responded at the restaurant for a motor vehicle accident. Officers found the man who had been thrown from his truck after an accident in the parking lot. Despite the efforts of the first responders, he was pronounced dead a short time later at Toby Hospital. Michael Dexter, 61 years old of Wareham, died after he lost control of his truck on Cranberry Highway and collided with a utility pole and another vehicle in a parking lot of Charlie's Place. His truck flipped over and he was ejected. The operator of the other vehicle, a woman from Bourne, was brought to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The accident is still under the investigation of Wareham Police and the Massachusetts State Police. And now to another news of the day, that is Wareham Department of Natural Resources helped to rescue 6 people from a vessel that was sinking near the Cape Cod Canal at about 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. The boat, a 24-foot bow rider type, had taken on water after a large wave had crossed the open bow, filling the open cockpit with water. The wave washed one man from the boat who was not wearing a life jacket. Within minutes, the Department of Natural Resources, the Onset Fire Department's boat crew arrived at the scene in Hog Island Channel, and firefighters came to the rescue. Also, the Carver Marion Wareham Regional Refuse Disposal District Committee plans to consult its attorney, have a financial analyst, organize documents, and form a finance committee to increase transparency. The district was formed in 1973 to allow Wareham, Carver, and Marion to negotiate jointly and dispose of waste with Covanta CMAS. District members voted at last month's meeting to raise sticker fees for all 3 towns to $125 next year, which will cover operating costs for the district's 2 transfer stations. That one is in Marion and in Rochester. And that's all for today's news headlines. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with more.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Good Morning Wareham. You know, it's another big day here for us at the GMW crew. Episode 101, a huge milestone for anybody in television. Uh, just so we can celebrate, let's go over some things that are also 101. Nelson Mandela, he's 101. Billy Graham, he's 101. Ted Williams, the home run king, 101 years old. The flip-flop thing, that's right there. That's 101. Also, fortune cookies, 101 years old. Love those things. They get fortune cookies all the time. 101 Dalmatians, best cartoon ever made by Disney. 101 Dalmatians, best live-action movie featuring dogs ever made by Disney. Zoe 101. That's 101. What else is 101? 101 games in one on the Nintendo Wii. And who could forget 101 games in one sports on the Nintendo Wii. Couple other things. Routes 101, going right down the Pacific coast of California. And of course, Good Morning Wareham. Happy birthday, Queen. Right back to you.
All right, so welcome back. One quick correction. We did say that we're going to visit Echo Elizabeth and Company. Actually, we are not going to visit Echo Elizabeth and Company. My apologies. In lieu of that, we are going to view a video called Vietnam, and these are a complexion of stories of Vietnam veterans, our local Vietnam veterans from nearby towns, and also one particular gentleman was from Wareham. They were telling their stories of the Vietnam War, where they were, the drafting, their time at Vietnam, and their lives when they came back, and how they're coping with those memories until today, especially coping with PTSD. So take a look.
Yeah, in those days, either you went on to college or you got drafted, or you joined. You know, some of the guys joined to get whatever they want. I decided to take my chances and not get drafted, but I got drafted. 19 and a half years old. Just bought a brand new Mustang. That's the way it works out.
Very concerned that I might get drafted. I'm not sure I was going. I know I couldn't control that, but I did attempt to join the reserves, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. Reserves at that time would need a physical, and I had already taken a physical, a draft physical. So they said I was all set to go, but so what they did is they contacted the local draft board for the physical, and she had a habit of, if she saw that you were going to go on the reserves, she would put you on the list, and that's how I got drafted. So instead of going to the reserves, I ended up getting drafted into the Army.
I gained an ROTC commission from Cornell University, and I deferred for 3 years to try and do a master's program. And so I entered the service in 1965, even though I was commissioned in 1963.
I was in high school and graduated in 1963. And you know the dates and the timings of that war and what have you, so I was not overly concerned about the war at that time. We had a presence there, of course, at that time. But for me, I did graduate from Wareham High School, and I thought I wanted to be a petroleum engineer, but after 3 years, I decided that I didn't think I wanted to be a petroleum engineer. And at that point, that's when they were pulling numbers and what have you, because they needed people in the now. So, as opposed to just dropping out at that moment in time and being drafted, I was really feeling very much that I wanted to become involved with medicine. So I joined the Navy and signed up to be a medical corpsman.
I was home. I was at home when I received it, and my wife and I were very serious about our relationship, and we'd hoped to get married. So I mean, 1,000 things went through my head about what would happen, how could I, what could I do about it, and we finally came to the realization there was nothing I could do about it, so we had to accept it.
So that morning was very terrible to get up for breakfast, say goodbye to my 1.5-year-old daughter and my wife who was pregnant, and say, you know, I'll see you in a year. That was the toughest experience of all.
Oh, my heart sank, because in those days, you know, to go to Vietnam is like a death sentence, you know. You don't know if you're going to make it or not, and you're leaving home, and to me, it was the first time I've left home for any length of time, so it was a little scary. I do remember the date that I got drafted, September 4th, 1969. And do remember the date that I left Vietnam, April 6, 1971. Those are burnt into my memory.
When I left, the day I left, my father said to me, he said, I know you're not overly religious, but take this with you. I think it'll help keep you safe. And we're Portuguese, so this is a thing called the Medida São Cristo. Medida São Cristo is a statue, a very famous statue in the Azores of that literally means Mr. Saint Jesus, and it's a famous statue that's so revered that miracles associated with it. But so this is actually the length of the statue, and that's what that means. So he said, I don't care what you do, whether you're religious or not, just keep it with you. So you can see it's kind of soiled, but it's 50 years old, and was my wallet, and went through a lot of things, and got me home safe. And I have to say that my father prayed for me in front of that statue every single day I was there. So this means a lot to me.
Arrive in Da Nang, get handed my piece, introduced to my platoon/company, and right to Elephant Valley the next day, where there was quite a severe amount of fighting going on. 1968, there were more men lost in 1968 than in any other year. And God bless all those others that were lost at different times. But jumped out of the helicopter, hit the deck, rolled over, and I rolled up against a guy I was at Marriott College with. Big, tall elephant grass in the middle of a firefight. He was a great guy.
It was an experience. We went to Fort Dix, and my group was the last group to go into the old barracks. The World War II barracks were up on stilts and everything. And an experience, as soon as that bus stops and the drill instructor jumps on the bus and starts yelling and screaming at you to get off the, you know what, bus and this and that, I said, oh my God. And within 10 minutes you realize you don't call a drill instructor, an enlisted man, sir. No, they're drill instructors. You learn very fast, and if you don't learn, you pay the penalty. You'll be doing push-ups or doing something.
My first experience was being assigned as company commander to this unit, and the first week the VC blew up an ammo dump about a mile away. Now, an ammo dump there was probably a square mile with boxes and boxes and boxes of munitions. And when they blew it up, the whole place went up at once. So within a mile away, we were getting mortar fire from our own ammo dump. The mortars were firing everywhere.
When they would get their weapons or their rifles, they had to zero me in. So there was an area out there where they had that. So I guess they didn't know what to do with me at the time. So they said, go down to that area, and all the shell casings that are going to pick those shell cases off the ground. So I did. I started picking them off the ground, and suddenly I realized I was being shot at. And it was my first experience. I didn't have a rifle. I didn't have anything, and I couldn't believe I'm being shot at. I got no way to defend it. I have no idea where it's coming from. So I remembered what they said, stay low and keep those arms going and come back to where you could come back to. So I got back, and once I got back, and there was a sergeant there. I said, I was just being shot at. And he says, yeah. He says, yeah, there's a sniper out in that wood line out there, and every once in a while he takes shots at us. And once I realized that, I said, well, I'm not home anymore. I am not home anymore.
There was very little battles where you could see your enemy. It's basically shooting back and forth in the jungle, just shooting from people shooting you from over there, then you shoot back from over there. You know, it was a guerrilla warfare, really. The cadre, the ones that trained us, were just back from Vietnam. And they were very hard on us. All we heard was, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. And what they were trying to do is train us the best as possible so we wouldn't get killed. You know, what you learn in books and in real life is two different things, you know? Yeah. You start listening to what you're told to do. And like I said, these guys just came back from Vietnam, and they knew the little ins and outs and what to expect.
I thought I was sort of avoiding things, and didn't feel like I didn't know if I really wanted to come home and say that I'd been a clerk that whole time, and I don't know how that would sound. And you have to remember, the Vietnam War was so controversial. So no matter what we did, even if we were clerks, we were thought to be baby killers or whatever. So nothing sounded good. So my sense of guilt already started there, if you will. So then I told Mr. Schmick, I said, you know what? I said, I think I want to do something else. And he said, yeah. He said, I'm just getting ready to promote you anyway, but I can't promote you as a clerk. I can promote you as a mechanic, because that's what the other people did. They said, well, if you promote me as a mechanic when I come back home, they're going to think I'm a mechanic. So I said, I really need to do something different. So he said, if you can get somebody to replace you, then go ahead, and then you can become a mechanic. So I did that, and I thought maybe that'd give me a better sense of what I was doing, and felt good, a little bit better about myself. It really didn't, but what it did is it put me in more arm's way, because you have to repair things. They have to get them out to the field, whether that's repaired in the field, whether that's repaired there, wherever it was. If they needed the equipment, it had to be delivered. So we worked tremendous hours just trying to get the equipment out. I mean, we're thinking about protecting our own people. So that sense of responsibility at that point sat well with me. So I thought that was important.
You learn to depend on your buddy, because they have to depend on you, you have to depend on them, and you get very, very close. And you know, especially in infantry, and a lot of guys lost their buddies and stuff, and it really, really rough. I lost a couple people in artillery, my captain and my forward observer, and it hurts you, especially like my captain. He had just gotten a letter from his wife. His baby girl had been born. Oh, he was so happy and everything, and overjoyed, and he was like a little kid. And I got transferred from that unit to another unit, and then I got a letter from my best buddy that I was with saying that Captain Heimbold got killed. So what you think about is, you know, there's a little girl that doesn't have a father anymore.
How come we were the lucky ones?
Every single story would be different. Every single story would be different.
The main thing was to protect my men. I mean, really, as an officer, that's what you do. You take care of your men.
I wasn't there at the time. I went on R&R to Hong Kong. When I came back, I found out that the infantry had heard movement, so they called in artillery. And next morning, they found a dead bear. They could hear movement. There was a bear out there. And that's why we include a lot of the animals and snakes and stuff in our slides, because a lot of people don't realize how much how many other things are out there besides the enemy, you know? Tigers and leopards and elephants and snakes and insects. You wouldn't believe it. The weather's going to kill me. The enemy's not going to kill me. The weather's going to kill me. And then the smell of the country. It's, you know, there's no running water unless you're in some fancy place in Saigon where it's really built up, but no running water. So, you know, all you smell is feces and urine and rotten food and everything. But after about a week, you get used to it. You think nothing of it. You get used to it. You have no choice.
The worst was the humidity, the dampness. Nothing ever dried out. You always felt like you were sleeping on a sponge.
My wife described how many times things would happen where she knew where I was, and there'd been a lot of people killed. Was I one of them? I remember telling me that one time she was leaving for work, and it was told it was an area, and I was in. They had bombed. They bombed her. By the time she got to work, she was throwing up. She was just an absolute mess. So sometimes people forget there are families back home who at some level are dealing with the same thing you are. So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
It's overwhelming. You come from the boondocks for a year, and then all of a sudden you're home. I met my second child, who was 10 months old, who I'd never seen before. She had a small apartment in Flushing. When I was in Vietnam, I was stationed next to what they call a artillery unit. So all night long you'd hear boom, 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 and all of a sudden I'm home and I'm sleeping in my baby's room, and all I hear is her breathing.
Well, when I came home, I was in so many ways I was a different person, because I came home and I was not the same person that I was. I sort of had an attitude. I said, you know, I've been at war. I've seen this and been through that. So, you know, I think I have a right to do pretty much whatever I want to do. And so at that point, believe me, I was not a very good person, and at times not a very good husband, and so I had a lot of regrets about that. And there were things I never dealt with. There were things that I talked about here, that I wrote about, that my wife never knew, nobody ever knew that I experienced. And so that's when I realized that as I sort of was dealing with this more and more, that I was developing this PTSD.
Noises, booms. In fact, when my kids were growing up, they thought it was funny when they dropped something and Dad jumped and started heading to the ground. And finally my wife says, don't do it anymore. And they finally realized that I'd gotten married. We're going on our honeymoon. We drove all the way up to Maine, a long drive. So we found a motel. It was the middle of the afternoon. So I just plopped on a bed because I was tired of driving and everything. A storm came over, and the lightning going through the air. I jumped off the bed yelling, "Incoming!" It's funny now, but it wasn't so funny then. And any little noise, smell, it brings me back there.
And it so broke America, you know. So many people against, so many people for, so many people dedicated to it, so many lives lost. I mean, 60,000. It's unheard of. It's ridiculous. If you think about it, it's the whole population of this city, Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, Marion. I mean, every person dead. It's just catastrophic.
It was the biggest experience I had in my life. I learned that you can get really close to somebody in a very short period of time. I learned what soldiers do when they go off to war. And I think it made me a better person. It made me more aware of how great this country is and how much we can do, what opportunities we have, where other countries that they don't have any opportunities, you know.
You need to protect your country and your people. The police can't just do it all. When it gets really bad, what do? We call in the National Guard, or we call in the Army, or right here on our own grounds. I think there's a lot to be said for serving your country. And we obviously need that type of service.
Now what I take about this is that I know there are so many Vietnam veterans, or any veteran, it doesn't really matter, when they come back home, it's very difficult for them. It's not hard for them, it's not easy for them to associate with other people and what they come back to, as much as we all try.
Hope people support the kids who are now getting deployed over and over and over again. It's so wrong.
I just hope that if other veterans have a chance to express themselves in the way I did, hopefully it'll be helpful, because it certainly helped me.
Well, hello, and thank you for being here with us this morning. We're broadcasting live from our WCTV studio. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, traffic, and more information. And now for a moment in history. Let's take a look at where we were today in history. May you ask him to tell me. On this day in civil rights history, Central High School was integrated in 1957 after the court case Brown versus Board of Education ruled out that segregation in schools was unconstitutional. 9 black students attempted to enter the all-white school in Little Rock, Arkansas, before a white mob prevented them from going in. After this, President Eisenhower sent in troops to make sure that the students would finally get into the school and get the education and the rights that they deserve. Also today in geriatric history, Satchel Paige pitched 3 innings at the age of 59 years old in 1965. Paige is the oldest person to ever play in the major leagues, and he didn't start his career in the majors until he was 42 years old. In part, it was because of the league's color barrier. Paige was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1971. Also today in constitutional history, the United States Congress passed the Bill of Rights in 1789. The amendments created were then sent to the states, which then had to individually vote on them. 10 of the 12 amendments were passed when Virginia gave the amendments a thumbs up in 1791. Yes, the government was just as slow back then as it is today. Also today, for today's birthday, shout out goes to Mark. This is Mark Hamill. Born in 1951, he is best known as Luke Skywalker, but he has had other successful roles like being the Joker in an animated Batman shows and being Chucky in the latest version of children's Child's Play. He turns 68 years old today. That is all for Today in History segment. To learn more cool historical facts, you can go online under history.com. Stay with us. The coffee segment is next. But first, let's take a quick break. Well, welcome back. So right now we are going to view Safety Assurance Program. This is a free program for you in the Plymouth County. All you have to do is register at the Plymouth County Department, Sheriff's Department. And what it does, it just basically checks on you. They call you every single day at your own designated hour. They call you to see if you're okay, and in case of a problem, then they will take in the appropriate steps. So take a look at this. Security, independence, and peace of mind. These three things are guaranteed by a special life-saving program administered right here at the Plymouth Sheriff Department. Keeping the public safe couldn't have gotten any easier, thanks to the Safety Assurance Program.
So this is our CARE program right here. We operate under the name of Safety Assurance. And this is just our program that we use to actually make the phone calls. Right here in this box.
This telephone software program checks on Plymouth residents by registering one phone call a day, answering this key question.
Good morning. This is the Plymouth County Sheriff's Safety Assurance Program.
Yes?
If you are okay, press 1. If you are not okay, press 3. If you need to talk to the officer on duty, press 5. You can hang up now. Thank you.
Bye.
At the other side of this call is a full-time officer whose main responsibility is to facilitate the conversation between the mobile software program and the client.
It's a well-being call system for people who live alone, who have health issues, mostly the elderly. We do have some younger people on there as well.
When you make these calls, what are you looking to hear, and how long do these calls last?
What I'm looking to hear is that the client picks up the phone, that they say hello, and that they hit the appropriate button. And typically the call, depending on if they're having phone issues, you know, it could go from 1 to 2 minutes. Sometimes I have them rummaging through for their phone to turn it on, hit the button. Sometimes it can go a little bit longer. Sometimes the phone disconnects. The system automatically knows when they hang up, the system hangs up and will print out one of these papers right here if there's any issues.
And in case of an emergency or a need for medical attention, the officer on duty is your first responder, working fast to get you the assistance that you need.
So if something is not okay, I'm alerted that, you know, they hit a button where they do need assistance. I will typically call them, say, is everything okay? It looks like you hit this button on this, and they go, well, you know, Kevin, things aren't, you know, okay today. I'm having some chest pains. I think I need a little help. Typically, I say, would you like me to call you an ambulance? And they go, yes, can you please do that? So I'll call them the ambulance, I'll notify them where they live, what's going on, and I'll call the client back and just say, the ambulance is on the way. Would you like me to stay on the phone with you while the ambulance is en route?
And just in case you're curious to how you could be so lucky to receive one of these safety calls, all you need to do is register through your Council on Aging or contact the Plymouth Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
Now, are you looking for a specific age or a specific condition somebody has to have? What are the qualifications in order to be in this program?
It does not matter. I mean, it's usually for, you know, our clients live alone. Some have health conditions, some don't. Some get around the house just fine. They just want that extra peace of mind that, you know, someone's going to check on them.
And to the other Plymouth County residents, especially those living alone, that one call a day can be the difference between life and a severe life-threatening emergency.
Well, just this year alone, we have saved three of our clients, just this year.
What are some stories you can tell me, you know, not to give out anybody's identity, but during your job, making calls, what are some stories that you can share with me?
Last year, it's around the time that I started, I had a woman who was having trouble answering the phone at her given time, and, you know, I used to always say, oh no, I think, you know, something has happened. And so one time she did pick up the phone. She answered on the phone, she pressed a button, but then it was one that I needed to, like, check on her to see if she's okay, and I thought, oh, she probably just hit the button on mistake. I know she doesn't have the greatest vision. Then I kept calling her and she wasn't answering. So I go, okay, that's not good. She's not answering now, and, you know, typically I will call a person back just, you know, because they just answered the phone, so why aren't they answering now? So I got the police to go over there. They said that she had happened to fall and hit her head on where the phone was located right after the phone call. And that's where they found her and were able to take her to the hospital.
So you respond right away. If somebody's not picking up their call and you know this is unlike them, you take the next step further. You call the police, they go and check on her.
Yes, that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that everyone is accounted for no matter what. That's why we're here.
What are some of the information you need to have? Let's say I'm interested, I want to be in this program. What do you need from me?
All I need to know typically is I need your phone number, where we're going to contact you. I need your address in case I do need to ever send, you know, an ambulance out. I need to have personal contacts, if any. If not, I usually just write down in my notes, call PD, local police department, does not have any contacts.
Comparing the Safety Assurance Program to other medical alert plans out there, such as the Life Alert, Senior Safety, and more, there are a handful of qualities that set this particular program apart from the rest. And one main reason being that the Safety Assurance Program does not cost a dime, and it does not need additional products, such as a purchase of a safety pendant, in order for the program to work. All you need is a phone.
So many elderly individuals or people that might have medical issues in your community we have this right here that would be a reassurance not only for them, but the loved ones that are out there for these people, that we're reaching out and we're touching base with them and saying that we know you're all right.
It all sounds very promising, right? But despite the program's incentives, such as safety and accountability, the program is not popular. There remains a large population with compelling reasons to why they abstain from the program.
With that being said, some of the reasons, maybe they'd be a little reluctant to the fact that they don't want to give up their independence, and I totally understand that.
There is also the stigma of the alarming blue lights outside your house when the police are called in case of an emergency. Or what will happen to you if you fail to answer the call on time. These fears and more are what the department is working so hard to mitigate. So in case you're still on the fence regarding the safety assurance program, if it is for you or not, try thinking of it this way.
So it's not only a peace of mind for the person that's receiving the call, it's also for their loved ones that are out there that are getting the reassurance that they're on the program. So
currently, there are about 150 Plymouth County residents in the Safety Assurance Program, a number that the Sheriff's Department is saying is too low, and they're hoping that more residents will take advantage of this life-saving program. Reporting from the Plymouth Sheriff's Department, I am Queen Banda of WCTV. Well, welcome back. So hopefully now you feel safe and you are going to take advantage of this great program. So right now we're going to be entertaining conversation regarding recycling here in Wareham, why it is important for you to recycle, and most importantly, where a recycling center is located. Take a look. Wareham, and welcome No, we don't back. need that We're anymore. broadcasting What were live you from saying? our You WCTV changed. Studio at 505 Main Street. This is the coffee segment. With me is Lynn and Earl Russell, the king and queen of recycling in the town of Wareham. Merlin is the director, right? The director of the coordinator for recycling here in the town. Our discussion this morning is everything to do with recycling in the town of Wareham, the process, how we can be efficient, what to recycle, what not to recycle, and how you can play a part in all of this. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
So we were having a very interesting conversation before the cameras turned on. But let's redo that conversation again. So tell us a little bit about you, Merlin and Earl. How did you guys become the queen and king of recycling?
Well, I married her. That's another.
You got pulled in.
Yeah.
I started volunteering at the recycling center, let's see,
Over 20 years.
20 years ago.
maybe 18, 20 years
Yeah.
ago
In Wareham.
in Wareham.
Okay.
And then I was conned into joining the recycling committee.
As it normally goes.
And at that time, we had a coordinator, a woman who was in charge of the volunteers, paying the bills, getting grants, et cetera, and she passed away. And the man who was running the center at that time, the yard man, asked me if I would like to become the coordinator, and I said, okay.
Absolutely. You had the knowledge, the background, and of course you have help that you can count on.
Well, I hadn't met him at the time.
Oh, okay.
I
So-
came in after.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Very nice. All right. So did you?
He just sort of jumped in and helped out, and he does quite a bit of
No,
work
I'm the
there.
king.
No,
No,
you're the
he's-
king.
He calls it the grunt.
So, okay, we are recycling. So tell us, how are Wareham residents doing when it comes to recycling? Be honest. Honesty helps. When you sugarcoat it, you're not helping anybody.
We have some people in town who are very, very sincere about recycling and very, very good at it and very
Conscientious.
conscientious. Then there are other people in Wareham that just don't want any part of it. As a matter of fact, they even litter their recyclables, throw them out the car window and litter. And I know that the town has a campaign.
Do not trash Wareham.
Right,
yeah.
do not trash Wareham, but it happens.
So those who are conscientious about recycling, what does it mean? Tell us what they do, the proper way of going about it.
Okay, they maybe have at their home separate containers or a container, and as they use items every day, they just put the things that can be recycled into the container, and then they bring it to us. And then we have to have it picked up and brought to a recycling facility where it's hopefully utilized and made into new plastic, tin, paper.
So when you are separating recyclable materials versus non-recyclable materials, even in the recyclable materials category, there is paper, you mentioned, there is plastic. They don't commingle, right? They have to be separated.
That's correct. Eventually they do.
Eventually, or should people at home do
Well,
that?
they should do that.
Okay.
It makes it easier when they come to the site, because we separate it at the site. We keep it in separate bins. Tin and aluminum in one, paper in another, glass, all colors in another one, and plastic, mixed plastic in another one, and then cloudy plastic in another bit. Cardboard in a separate bin.
And also you take technologies, right, like computers and all, laptops.
Yeah, those go in a separate place too. But those we charge for. Those aren't free.
Those are not free.
No. Everything else requires no sticker or center.
And why is technology chargeable? Why do you?
Because it costs us to get rid of it.
Oh,
a lot.
a
We
lot.
have to pay it.
Okay.
In fact, we're paying now to get rid of everything. There's nothing they pay us for. We pay to get rid of it.
Right.
$117 a ton today for paper, tin, glass. I'm not sure. Cardboard is a wash because the bins that the cardboard go in are donated to us. In return, they take our cardboard.
Right.
And they don't pay anything for it. ABC does that.
ABC does that. So you just mentioned, you said currently you have to pay for everything. How did things used to run before?
The town used to pay for our pickups and dumping, but the town always paid for it. So it's kind of like out of one pocket or the other pocket. But we have no budget. That's the problem. We have no budget for it. We have gotten money through special, what are they called, warrants at town meetings. That's how we've been operating for years. And we got enough money a few years ago to last us for 3 or 4 years. And then they started charging us to pay. Municipal maintenance used to pay to dump it. That's another department of the town. But we ended up having to do it. We didn't have a budget for it. So we're using that money that was allocated to us to do that too. So again, we're going to be faced with a financial crisis in a couple of years. Pretty good for a couple of years.
Pretty good for a couple of years. So tell me, I mean, this financial crisis, we're trying to inspire people to recycle. How are things functioning on your end? How frustrating is this, not having a concrete budget?
Well, I've never, ever since I've been coordinator, we've never had a budget. It was stopped back before the previous coordinator passed. The town, whoever was town administrator at the time, just said, we don't need any money for recycling. So then the committee stepped up, and we do take in some money, and they use that money to pay like a small amount of money, a stipend, to keep the coordinator going. It is frustrating, but that's the way it is. And
we've been doing it for years. We submit a warrant to the town meeting, And it comes up in the town meeting, and the town people either deny it or okay it. And normally they okay it.
Right.
So
So at least you're getting the support of the town, but to be told that we do not need recycling, or that it's not in a list of our priorities, departments to fund for, apart from hurting, tell us the repercussions of that to this town, to not really invest monetary time into recycling. What are we losing?
Well, if people just stopped recycling right now, all the recyclables that we take in will be burned. And that, when you burn, the more you burn, it's going up into our atmosphere.
Some of it can't be burned either.
But then, to that point, to those who are still questioning, because then we're going to be talking about climate change or global warming, you name it. So those who are sitting saying, how is that impacting me? I may be gone, or I don't care, or I do not believe. Once again, draw it back to the point at home. Why should people care?
Well, my feelings have changed a little on why people should care, but people still should care. One of the problems we have now is that we have an overabundance of plastic and paper that China, for one, will not take.
They used to take it.
They used to take our plastic recyclables over there, and I really don't know what they did with them, but now they're refusing to take them. And the same with newspaper. What we're doing, and by we, the United States, is trying to find other countries who will take our recycling. So it's almost like sometimes I feel we don't know what the future is going to bring. What's going to happen? We keep stockpiling recyclable items, but what are our choices? Burn it or put it in a landfill?
The landfills are full.
The landfills
everywhere.
Are full. Okay.
Bourne has a big landfill, which I guess has plenty of room still. We don't in this town. We have none, zero. There's one in Rochester, I believe. I'm not sure about Marion.
I don't know. One of them was recently capped. I know that.
I think the one in Rochester is now capped too.
So we have an abundance of, you mentioned plastic, you mentioned newspapers, and one of the places, China, that we used to depend on to take our things, no longer, putting a cap, not taking everything. And also, right here in our town of Wareham, we do not have a budget, we don't have reinforcement, it's not mandatory to recycle.
Right.
All right, so you guys are stuck right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of used to it. We do have the support of the current town administrator, Derek Sanderson. He's been very supportive.
What is, tell us about, if any, concrete plans that he has to help further the department? Are we looking to have it mandatory? Everybody should recycle? I think they should. I truly, because if we're going to, if anything that needs to be, in order for this to be successful, we need to make it mandatory. There needs to be a law, a bylaw written with precautions, right? If you break it, like anything else, and that's how we can reinforce something. But if we go by the goodwill of people, as we know, not everybody considers this important. And you're telling me that this is important.
Yeah, we believe it's important. Everybody that has a trash hauler, to get the what am I trying to say? The permission to operate in the town, they have to offer recycling at no extra cost to their customers. So if you sign up to have your trash picked up, they should take your recycling for nothing. And I think on a one-on-one basis, you're dealing with a company who works okay. But there's a million trailer parks and apartment complexes where that's not the case. They're just throwing it all in the dumpster. Everything.
Everything.
Some people aren't. The people who are conscientious bring it in to us.
To us, right.
But you guys are only open twice a week, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And the hours are very specific, very few
Very
amount of
exactly.
hours a week.
Right.
So those, once again, people can say, yes, I would love to, but I cannot make it there, those demanded hours.
Yeah, there are people that say that. But the ones that are really conscientious, they work around it. And
They make an
schedule.
effort to
Do you think
get
it's
there.
because we have not grasped the importance, reading about why we should recycle? They mention such as saving money, the environment, all that. It sounds great, but I feel like we have missed the nail.
Yeah,
People have not connected with the cause yet.
No, that's probably true. You have to understand that when they use recycling, they don't have to make new things. Notice when they take plastic and they reuse it, they don't have to create new plastic. Plastic is the biggest problem, really.
Well, some town, Boston, has banned plastic bags.
Yeah,
Are we looking? Are you advocating for
No.
the same thing in Wareham?
I don't think that's the answer,
Okay.
personally.
Personally.
Yeah, I don't think banning anything's the answer. People are going to find a way to do whatever they're going to do. And to me, to ban plastic bags is it's a small. It doesn't mean anything to us. We still burn plastic bags, by the way, even though we take them. They're burned.
You burn them.
We don't. CMAS does.
Okay.
Right. They go to CMAS
So
They
they
burn
don't
them up.
recycle
and they're
them.
burned.
I don't know of anybody that takes a bag and makes something else out of it. Plastic bottles, they do. Bottle caps. There are places in this country that take bottle caps and make prosthetic limbs out of them. But the way we do it.
That's a very small
Oh
percentage.
yeah, and every bottle that we throw away, the cap's usually on the bottle, and I don't know how they take them off. They have to be separate.
I don't know. One of the things they are using glass for is they mix it in with asphalt for the roads and pavement. So I don't know how much of that they're doing.
What is the solution in Wareham?
Well, in Wareham, we need to have it mandatory to recycle, and the trash, not throw anything recyclable in the trash. I don't know how you police that though.
Right.
Who looks in the bags and says there's stuff in there that shouldn't be. A lot of trash haulers in certain towns are very picky about what they take in the trash. The town I came from, Dighton, is very picky about it. You have a recycle box, you have a trash box, and a bag. The bags are clear. You can't have black bags. And they look in, if they see recycle, they don't take it. They just leave it sitting on the sidewalk.
We should do the same thing.
Yeah.
I
And
know a
it
lot of
works. I'm
people-
not saying it's perfect, but it works.
It's something, and you, both of you, being in the midst of all this, I'm sure what you're telling us comes from knowledgeable perspective rather than just outing your feelings. You know, you know what works and what doesn't work. Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I am with you, and I would love to continue helping you to further this campaign to why you should recycle. Hopefully, everybody is going to connect with it, one way or another.
Yeah, we've been fighting for years just to keep the recycling center open.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have a budget. We have to go for warrants, get the town people to vote for it, which they've done. That's part of what we do, is get the funds. We take all the returnable nickel bottles and cans we get every week. We take it in. It averages probably $50, $60 a week that we take in from just cans and bottles. We charge for tires, but they charge us to take them. We make any money on anything else? Not really.
No, it's a work of heart. It's really, this is, You have to love it, because rather than that, it's just frustrating. You're not getting anything in return.
No.
Yeah. Well, thank you to both of you for being here. I would like to further this conversation. So whenever both of you can make it to the studio, I
Okay.
would love to have you.
Okay.
To our viewers, thank you for joining us in another episode of Good Morning Wareham. My guests were Marilyn and Earl Russell, the king and queen of recycling in Wareham. You heard them. For Good Morning Wareham show, we'll be back on Friday with Jim Gibberty. Jim Gibberty from the Sewer Commissioner, here to talk about the Sewer Commissioner and their latest issues. Anyhow, thank you for joining us. This particular show will be re-aired this evening at 6 p.m. and will also go on our YouTube channel, Wareham Community Television on YouTube. Bye, Wareham.